at the same time, the state is trying to transition to green renewable energy. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I would say it's a lot of greenwashing. And so what you're seeing is you're being asked to, hey, let's start relying on solar and wind and all these technologies that are considered renewable. But the fact is, we continue to consume fossil fuels at a significant rate. In fact, I think over 50% of our actual consumption here in California comes from fossil fuels. And we see that. We see that in July 9th, the EIA said that we burned more natural gas for power production on that day than in the history of mankind previously. And so we're not necessarily moving away from
California or in general?
In general, for the United States. And in California, we're no different. We're still highly dependent on fossil fuels. But what you're seeing now is time of use. You're seeing a lot of solar and wind come onto the grid early in the morning, and then later in the day we'll transition to a lot of the fossil fuel production and a lot of imports coming in from out of state. So we're doing that as opposed to actually building true proven technology like nuclear power plants or other power plants. We're building very few to replace the power plants that are being decommissioned and taken off the grid here in Southern California.
Your concern is that we might be importing more, right?
I think my concern in a broader sense, and when it comes to utilities, is that, we're importing a lot of our water into Southern California, so that creates its own unique challenges. But now we're also importing a lot of our energy over the last 10 years into Southern California, and we don't have any new real projects, at least for us in the Inland Empire, that are being developed to support a lot of the growth that's going to happen in the next 2 decades.
What about the renewables? Like, there's a lot of talk about going solar and wind. Is there any more projects on those? And how's your experience? You work at a gas plant. How's the experience and the cleanness? Because Californians care about that too.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about solar and wind is it has its place, but we're seeing a lot of commercial applications of solar and wind. And so what does that mean? If you go out to the Mojave Desert, you're seeing a lot of that area being blanketed with solar panels, with a lot of windmills. And frankly, there's a lot of waste when you're in transportation, when you're putting out all these energy projects out in the middle of nowhere and trying to bring that in through transmission lines into actual urban areas. There's losses, 10 to 30% losses. And so it's not necessarily practical to continue to do projects in that sense. You should be investing and putting in that solar in urban areas, already disturbed areas, and leave the desert alone, man. Like, the desert is fine the way it is. It's one of the most biologically diverse areas that we have. It's something that we would like to pass on to future generations in California for them to enjoy. And I don't think it's a practical solution for our energy needs as residents of California.
So you're concerned that will have an impact on the desert environmentally?
I'm 100% concerned that's negatively impacting our deserts. It's one of the largest carbon sinks that we have in the world. And the desert is considered one of the most biological diverse areas in the world. And so for us to go out there and just blanket it with solar panels, knowing that we're still going to experience a lot of transmission losses, to bring it into urban settings, I think it's foolish on our behalf. I don't think it's something that we should continue to practice. There's a time and a place for it, and I think, honestly, solar is better served by putting solar in already
in homes.
In homes.
Do you think that's the best way? Because then you won't lose much on the transmission.
Wouldn't be. I think it would be great if solar was like a refrigerator. If it just came as part of the home, and we'll see that a lot of.
Which they are mandating that already.
Yeah.
They already have mandated on new homes. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, but a lot of older homes as well would be nice to retrofit them with solar panels, as opposed to going the route that we've.
What about the wind?
So wind's an interesting one. At IUA, we have we invested.
You guys have wind and solar, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have one windmill. It's about 1 megawatt, and 1 megawatt. Yeah, and the thing is that it's not necessarily a reliable source of energy. And there's talks about pairing it with batteries to take advantage of time when we are experiencing high winds. To charge.
So does it generate a lot? Does it generate a lot more than it can transmit, or?
It does, but then there's also a point in time where if it's too windy, then you got to shut down those windmills, where they're not going to be available to produce power because they may frankly, they may be damaged. And once they're damaged, then what's the repair cost on something like that? And so there are opportunities. That there is wind, I think, is part of the solution going forward for California. I don't think it's going to be one of the most critical things that we should be investing in. I don't think it's going to play a major role in our transition. I think California is still a very energy intensive. We do need a lot of energy in California. We're the 5th largest economy in the world. And I don't think wind and solar alone are going to give us that dependability and that reliability that we need.